Very nice to have you with us today, Aurora.
It's very nice to be here, Gudmundur.
Thank you. You pronounced the name pretty well.
Thank you.
Did you practice beforehand?
I practiced right after you told me today.
Okay.
A bit in my head.
Great. So, where should we begin?
Yes.
Would you want to begin with telling me a little bit about your childhood and how you grew up?
Well, I think I strongly believe that, of course, our childhoods has a lot to say with the person we eventually become. But I also think we have way more power than we believe. That we don't have to necessarily blame the things in our childhood.
No, we're not defined by childhood.
Yeah, but we're not defined by it because we have so much potential and so much power to become whatever we want. And I think that is the biggest gift I've been given, that I've been told that so many times, that I have the power to change what I want to change and to be what I want to be. And
that's a great thought. So if you think back, when did you start to have these thoughts about yourself and life?
Well, I've never been a big fan of analyzing myself, because I just like to exist and I like to just be and just explore. And I find that the less I think about myself or analyze my behavior or my choices, the more energy I have to actually notice the beauty around me. Yeah. So I'm a very big fan of looking outwards than too much inwards, unless there is something in me that is ruining how I experience life, like pain or grief or
so something sorrow. Negative, then
you have to look inwards and fix it, or learn to live with it. Depends what kind of pain it is.
And when you create music, is it do you use the same process as looking? Do you look more outwards when you create music, or do you look more inwards?
I don't know. When I make music, outwards and inwards is kind of the same thing, because I haven't written so much about like really personal things, and I haven't written so much about love or love songs, because I've been so busy about writing about everything else that's happening in the world, because I care very deeply about people and the planet and about political matters that's happening and emotional inequalities in the world. And it's there is a lot of things to be inspired by out there, but it's personal also, because you do take the the injustice out there quite personal, because it is personal.
So beliefs about injustice and something outside, I just did that myself before, so don't worry. So that is something which inspires you and creates something in you which helps you do the music.
Yes, I am very inspired by, or it's changed with time. I don't know why I want to make music all the time, and I don't really understand why I need to make music, but I feel so much better after I've made something, and I feel such at peace with existing, I think, when I write and play, because I don't have to question why I'm here anymore, because it just makes sense, because music is so beautiful. And I feel like music is such an important thing, especially now. It becomes more and more important, I think, with time, because the world and society is getting more and more cynical, and I feel like we're losing the language of the soul. Like there's almost nothing left here in this world that speaks directly to the heart and the soul, because we have so much that speaks to the mind and the brain, and taking space, noise everywhere. And I think that's why I love music, because it just speaks directly to the soul, and it's one of the few languages we have left that the soul understands.
Okay, so So as you described, like the music, it means a lot to you, and when you're in that space of creating music, you feel that is something existential. And then you're in the now, so to speak. And is that correct? That you're in a certain space or emotion which allows you to just focus on the music and nothing else?
Yes, it's very liberating. It's like dreaming and sleeping, but being very awake and eating the best meal and having sex and swimming and flying at the same time.
Yeah.
It's all of it. And also crying. It can also be very painful to write music. It depends, of course, what you're inspired by in the moment. But it's very nice. I'm very grateful that I'm allowed to make music and that I have it in me, because it's the only thing I understand.
So explain a little bit more about, like you talked about the world and injustice and how the world is that you create music not because of you or how you feel, but a little bit about what's going on. Can you explain that to me and the people listening a little bit, what you feel and what you think?
Well, I think I got a very big shock when I kind of turned into when I grew older, because I was very sensitive as a child, but I was very protected by my parents from anything that was really, really sad that happened out there, because I was really inequipped emotionally to deal with the inevitable sadness out there, because it was just too much. And I think that's why I started making music in the first place.
Okay, so music became a coping mechanism.
Yes,
you
I
think so, or something? Yeah, okay.
I think so, because I was a very sensitive child, which I think many children are, and many people can recognize themselves with. So it's not really anything special, but I think it started out as a very good coping mechanism and a way to raise questions and make my own answers. It was very important for me, and I'm very important. I'm very grateful that I've had music all my life, because I think I started writing when I was 5 or 6.
Wow.
So I was very young, but I understood still that this is important, and this makes me feel good, and that makes me want to do it every day, because I love feeling good. But yes, I think I lost my train of thought because I speak so much, but I was really bad with dealing with everything around me, and I didn't know where I stopped and where the people around me started. Like if anyone was sad in the room, I could become really sad.
So you were sensitive to others' feelings. Can you? Is it okay if we talk a little bit about that? You mentioned that you began writing songs when you were 5. Can you take us a little bit back in time? As you were a child, you mentioned that you were sensitive. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I was really sensitive, and I was really I needed to be taken away from a lot of the noise, more often than many other children. I think I struggled a lot with noise and with.
When you talk about noise, you mean general noise, like just
no, I mean like
or
all the fuss.
The fuss,
like other children. Birthday parties were my least favorite thing, because there were so many people making noise in the room, and beginning at school also. I didn't like school. I still don't like school. I think it's important to learn, and I love learning stuff, but I don't like school so much, because it's not made for energetic, weird children, and I was a very energetic and weird child.
Why do you use the word weird? Like for me, weird can be a little bit negative word. But maybe you use it in a positive way.
I think I use it purely objective, like just as a description with no emotional connection to it, whether it's positive or negative.
So not you were not as the other children, or you were different in a way.
Just not as good at being social, and I didn't really enjoy being social. And the school system, and I guess being human, is very revolved around that you have to make friends and be social, and that. So it's not really made for introverts and people who just like being alone, and so it's not really weird, but it was just different from the few people that I knew in my little town that I grew up in, I think.
Okay.
But I had a really good childhood, but I just liked being alone. I didn't like being with people.
You preferred being alone, and then that was more comfortable for you?
It was just more fun.
Did you start then dreading to go to school when you were younger? Like, did you have bad, oh, I have to go to school, and did you start to have anxiety for it or something like that?
I think sometimes yes, but also I was lucky to have good teachers that understood. So when I asked them if I could, I often asked my teachers if I could go. When I felt really restless, I asked if I could go out and run one time around the school and then come back in.
So you had
and they
full of
allowed
energy
me.
as a child. Did you think that the school, like the system, as we talked about, that it held you down a little bit, that everything had to be in boxes? Was that something you thought like that was not good for your energy?
Well, I think it's good sometimes to learn or to be utfordret.
Challenged. Yeah.
To be challenged in a way that kind of makes you break your own pattern. I think that's a very healthy thing for all people and children to experience. But of course, I think the schools aren't made for people who are very energetic or that struggle with paying attention. I got in a lot of trouble because I didn't
had to
pay.
go to the principal.
I didn't pay attention.
That we both have in common.
Yes,
that happened to me a lot as well.
Not the favorite, I think. I was very bad at paying attention, but I didn't really relate to all the things they were teaching at school. But yes, I guess it's different from person to person how we feel about school. But I love educating myself because I find learning about things. All things is gives also a lot of meaning to life, but yes. And
you talked as well about then that you felt a lot of pain for the world as well, and was it at some point you started to realize more about the world, the planet, or other things, or injustice, and that started to influence you? At 9 or 10 or 11, did things start to change then?
I think mainly the beginning of my life was more. I was very taken by emotions, and I was really confused with people's fear, because I wasn't really afraid of things, and I wasn't ashamed of things. I was very comfortable with being angry or sad. Or, I was, you could easily tell what I was feeling, and you still can. And I remember as a child noticing that people seemed sad, especially grown-ups, and they didn't say that they were sad. And that confused me a lot as a child, that when you realize that people can actually be in a lot more pain than you know.
And they covered over it overnight.
Yeah, like most people do. And I think that's incredibly sad to think that the people that needs support the most have to endure so much pain alone. And often when you're in pain, you have to also cope with being so lonely at the same time. And it's just incredibly sad. And it inspired me to write a lot of music that could be that friend to people, because we aren't really taught to share our emotions, especially not men, which you can see on the percentage of how many men or women that commits suicide every year. It's clear to see that in the mental health department we need to support men because there is not a lot of room there. I think women and men are both victims of the macho culture in different ways. But yes, it's a very important thing to talk about. But yes, that inspired me a lot to make my first album, All My Demons Greeting Me as a Friend. Very long title. But that inspired me. I just wanted to make music that could be that friend to people and that could allow people to feel and not be afraid of emotions, because it's a part of life. And it's a part of being human. And it's just so important to allow yourself to feel pain or to feel anxiety or to feel like you're gonna die. But then always remember that eventually it will get better. I know sometimes it seems like it can never be better. And the worst thing hearing is when people say it will be better with time. Because it's just like, it can be unbearable to even hear it. But because it's true.
It's often, So I often thought when people say that it's not the time itself which makes it better, but it's what you do in that time that helps you. Okay, but that's very interesting, Aurora, that you talk us through that, and great to hear that's a thought which inspired your first album. So when you talked about these emotions, strong emotions, and people covering it, and I think maybe in the culture and society we live in, I think maybe if we reflect about it, that is true. I mean, I think the culture doesn't really encourage to show your true emotions, or like when children are growing up, you shouldn't show very strong emotions. So that's at least one angle. And then when you talk about discovering emotions, it seemed like you were thinking about some person close to you. Was there some person close to you which affected you a lot, which you thought like covered his emotions too much?
I think everyone around me did so.
In the family and friends?
Yeah, in family and friends. I think that's, every single person I know is covering up their pain. Everyone. And it was just really confusing because I didn't have the same mechanism, I guess, to cover up things.
So it was different. You wanted to be a little bit more truer to your emotions, that it felt wrong to cover it, and then you wanted to express your emotions. Did people indicate that you were a little bit too much, that you were too emotional, or you can't show this, or did you get a lot of feedback about that?
I think that's where I was very lucky, and I'm very lucky with my parents. They're just brilliant people. And they never said anything about anything. They just allowed me to be free. And if the teacher said that Aurora is a bit different or a bit strange and we might need to blah, 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 they were like, no, she's just herself. And they were very clear about that nothing is wrong, even though you're a bit different than the few people you see around you right now. Because out there, the world is so big, and I think I knew that from a very young age, that the world is much bigger than my little town.
Yeah. How many lived in your little town?
Not many, I think like 300 people.
Wow.
And the school only had like 9 students.
Wow.
In the class, so it was it's not small.
Exactly, yeah, that's very small, even compared to Iceland's time.
Yes,
yeah.
Very small.
Okay, so and tell us then the road you took from developing into a musician. So at what age and time did you start to experiment with music?
I never really wanted to be an artist. It was never a dream. I wanted to be a scientist or a psychologist. But then this kind of just happened and I just went with it. But I started making music when I was 5 because I didn't think there was any song that was just right. Because we heard some music. We didn't have a radio at home or a TV in the beginning, so we only had a few records to listen to. We had some Leonard Cohen, and I remember thinking that it's beautiful with the guitar and the way things sounds and the warmth of the music. I remember thinking that like that's a nice melody, but I don't like the melody that comes right after. And I just sat down with the piano because I wanted to make a song that was perfect for me, like the whole way. So it just came. I just started making music because I was unhappy with the songs I had in my life. I was like, no, I need to make something that's fulfilling. Yeah. And then I just continued because it felt amazing. And when I was
and that is
14,
probably a story which is like very amazing for people to hear. So at 5 years old, you started to sit on the piano. Did you hear the notes? Did you play after them?
Yes, it just made sense.
And you never learned. It came natural.
It just came natural, but it took time, of course. But it's piano.
I don't know why I did like this. I was like, why did I do this?
It's not
you don't. It's obvious that I don't play the piano. Yes. You probably didn't do like this, but more
no,
like
it was just. But I think piano is not the most hard thing to learn. Guitar is more like you can see, but on the piano you can see every note and remember. So it wasn't that difficult, and I have a good hearing thing. So
you heard the notes and okay.
And it was it just came very natural, and I loved it, and I just did it for many years. And I think I played a lot in my room, and my parents didn't know that I sang or could play before I was 14. So I played in secret for quite a long time. Because I didn't have any need for anyone else to know.
You were doing it for yourself.
Because it's just, it made me feel delicious. Delicious. And then I guess my parents found out when I was 14.
Did you try to hide it for him? Or was it more of a...
Not by meaning. It's just... It just didn't occur.
You had no interest in saying, hey, here I am. The music was something between you and the music.
Yes, between me and me. But then, they knew. And then I think suddenly I played a song on my school and someone filmed it and put it on the internet, and that's how my management found me.
Well, how old were you then?
16.
So at very young age you got then spotted.
Yes, or I was 15, but So they called me and said, do you want to be an artist? And I was like, no, I don't think so. I didn't want it. But then my mother said that my music made her feel pain, but in a nice way. And that I think she said to me the first time that my music was like a language to her soul. And she said that I should share it with people because it's selfish to keep medicine to yourself. You have to share it because it might do good for like one person out there. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna try. And then then it just happened. But it was kind of a coincidence that all of this happened. I didn't mean for it to happen.
No. So it was just
an accident.
A song which came out suddenly in school. Someone filmed it, and then was that then the start of Aurora, the artist as we know today, or did it take some years till that you came back, or how was the development?
I think that was the start. I showed them a few songs, and then we recorded Runaway, which I wrote when I was 14, I think. No, 11. It's very old. And then I released that song and it went well and blah blah blah. And then my first album came. And then I took inspiration from why I started making music, this emotional thing. But it's clear to see that on my second album I can see and hear in my lyrics that I've been traveling. And I traveled so much with my first album. I traveled to so many places and I saw how similar people are, how we are so the same, we have the same needs and the same hearts and the same minds, and it's so different and it's so unfair how different it is to live around the world. Even like some places you are allowed to be who you are, and in other countries you're not even allowed to love. And it just sucks. It sucks.
So the injustice which you've seen in your travels, that affects you?
It affected me a lot.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. It affected me a lot when... and you have to write one album for everything. I have a lot of things to say, but yes, once I had made that emotional album, I traveled around, and it just I couldn't stop thinking about how many things there are to fight for, and how important it is to never stop fighting for equality or against injustice. And then I just realized that music can also be a tool of inspiring people, because they already have the warrior inside of them. They already know, they're already good, they are already determined, and sometimes you just need something to inspire you. And we are very they're my supporters are very cool people, and they're very strong-minded, and they're very aware of their potential and how important every single human being is. And the only change we can make, obviously, is when we stand together like we do now, because we can make really big things happen, and it's just really cool. I feel like people now finally in the whole world are realizing how much power they have to speak their minds and to fight for things they believe in. Is beautiful. It's very inspiring.
Do you think that is the music you develop, is it a little bit connected to like the emotions you're going through at different periods? Like now you talk about after you're traveling, you experienced a lot of injustice, and that emotion was very strong for you. Does that then lead to that you create music around that emotion?
Yes, you have to live first, and then you write about it, because there is nothing more inspiring than life itself, of course, and people, and it's just the most inspiring thing. And you try with every album you make, or I try at least, to find out, to try to see in the future, and to think, what do I think my fans would love to hear? What would we need maybe in 1 year? And you try to make the music that fits people's hearts, so it's very fun, and it's just very inspiring.
So it's also like an instrument for the people, so that's something you think about as well. What your listeners and fans need at that time, that's also inspires you.
It's the only thing that inspires me, but is to think that, or it's the biggest thing, that it's the most important thing that inspires me, is to think what people would need in music, because that's the whole point, isn't it? What else is it for? Of course, sometimes what people need is to dance and to feel happy, so that's also equally as important. But yes, it's very inspiring, and it's just nice for me, I guess, like all people, to find meaning in whatever you do. It's important for us people.
So are you then happy with the role you've taken? Now you didn't become a scientist, but you ended up being a very known and successful artist. Are you happy with that, or do you want to be a scientist when you grow up?
Maybe. No, I think I'm happy with it. I haven't really stopped to think if I like it or not, because it's just kind of what I do now. But I think I like it. It's a very strange thing. It's definitely not a natural thing for humans to experience, this artist thing. And I don't think it's a healthy thing either, sometimes, to be worshipped. I think it's a bit scary also. I don't know.
Can do something with people.
Yeah, it's just a weird thing. It's a weird thing that humans have created, that we like to worship something or someone.
Is that uncomfortable for you? That sometimes you feel that people worship you? What does it do to you?
It is very weird, but it helps me, because I know they know that we are all just friends, and that they are so important to me, because I wouldn't be an artist without them. So they kind of, it's balanced, you know. I couldn't do what I do, and I wouldn't have any reason to make music if they didn't exist, if people didn't exist. So it's all kind of connected in the end. But yes, it's a very strange thing. I find it very hard to deal with, and I don't like being on a stage so much. I like it now though, but in the beginning it made me want to puke or pee myself, or I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned, and that like for many people, like you explained that making music was giving you the most, so the purity of that. And then some other activities comes along, which you're a little bit forced as an artist to do, having shows, concerts. Has that been a difficult road of doing other parts of the music, coming up to interviews or shows, and has that been difficult?
Well, it was in the beginning, but I guess all people should and should have, and they have some part of their life they're not. They don't absolutely love, you know. That's just how it is. And I know that, however I think about it, I'm just very, very lucky. So whatever I think about things, if I get tired of something, I always come back to the fact that I'm obviously very privileged and lucky. So it's very easy to kind of put your mind in the right place again. I do it very quickly because I know this is a big dream for many people, what I am doing. And it feels like I'm stolen someone else's dream, since it was never my dream. So I feel bad sometimes, but now I think it's becoming my dream. Because my dream is to continue to make music. And I guess now I like playing more, because it gives you the chance to see what your music actually does. And it's very beautiful. And yes, you know, when I said that I touched your knee.
That's fine.
With this. But yes, you know, when I said when I was a child, I didn't like people. It took me a long time to even like touching and hugging. I don't really like, so COVID is perfect for me, because I don't like to be close. Not, of course, it's very sad that people died. It's a horrible. I'm just saying that.
Now it makes me feel bad that I laughed at the same time you said.
The touching is. I can live without the touching.
Can live without
no
touching of strangers.
Yes, but being an artist have helped me love people, because there are so many things with humankind that are just rubbish, and you think, what the hell is wrong with these people, and why do humans suck? That's a very frequently asked question, I think, because we do so many strange things, and all the problems we have been created by ourselves, and we make everything so complicated, and it's just very demotivating. But touring has helped me see that people are quite beautiful, and that there are people like me out there, people that maybe just feel a bit on the outside sometimes, or introverts, and the people that no one is listening to, that often have the most to say, which is really annoying, because they could be the best leaders, I think, but they never get the chance to be heard. There's a really heartbreaking thing. But yes, it helped me love people. When you see people cry, how can you not love them when you look at them showing? And finally, people in the audience are actually showing what they're feeling, not hiding like all the people. So it just gives me...
It gave you more energy in the end. Yeah. No. So interesting that you mentioned. So before I came in here, I just saw a schedule from your tour last year, and it was a brochure, and I saw you had a concert for many days in a row in a different place.
Yes.
And I started thinking about. Okay, there's a concert like every day, many days in a row. And no matter how fancy the hotel is, which you're staying in, it must be stressful, and it must require a lot from people. So how have you tackled that, like touring and then doing concerts every day, new environment, and how has that been for you?
I think that's the most unhealthy part of my life, and of many people's lives that have to do the same thing in their job. I find it very stressful, and I often miss home when I'm on tour. I miss the mountains, and I miss the air, and I miss the rain and the cold. The world is too hot. I feel homesick a lot because I miss the quiet. I love silence so much. It's just the most beautiful thing, and there is no silence out there in the big cities. It's just noise all the time, and it's very strange.
But it takes a toll. So
Yeah,
what kind of plan do you have? You seem very conscious about how you feel and how you're thinking. So I'm sure you had a plan, and I think most people do, whether they're aware of it or not. How do you cope? Like, what do you do?
Well, first of all, you have to I had to learn to build some walls, some healthy walls, to keep the world out. And also you just have to, which I also think many people out there can recognize themselves with, that you just deal with it. You just accept that, okay, I'm tired all the time, and you have to sleep like 1 hour a night and be in a different city every day, and it's very exhausting. It's very exhausting. Oh my lord, it's exhausting.
Do you have any routines? Like I had a friend which traveled a lot, and he struggled with it, and in the end he thought like, okay, I have to have a routine. He woke up early, he trained, he stayed away from alcohol. Did you end up having some kind of a plan or to help you cope with this?
My routine is I drink alcohol and I don't train and I sleep very little.
So you ask for a minibar in the
yes, because I love having a beer after the show. It's just the best thing.
Yeah.
And my band is just amazing, and we have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm very I like living. I'm very bad at making a plan.
I hope I didn't make you feel bad.
I'm just saying I have no plan. But I just do.
That sounds like a plan to me. Like that you celebrate. Celebrate things with the people you're working with. You have a close relationship with the people you work with.
But never before the show, obviously.
Oh.
But
afterwards, then it's cheers. We did great,
and we laugh a lot.
Yeah.
That's good workout for the belly.
Yeah, and often when things go wrong, little things, you can laugh about it with the team, and then sure, we'll fix it next time. And is that what happens?
Yes, and we just have fun, and it's very important for me that everyone in my team has fun on tour, and that they're being seen, and that they feel comfortable. And I don't want to make too strict rules, because I want people to be able to have fun in this weird part of our life where we are allowed to do something so strange as touring.
But that's interesting, and maybe that is a plan or one part of it.
Yes.
I wasn't eardropping before, but I heard you were talking with your manager about this person, which you said we have to have that person with us because she's so positive and she's so optimistic and she does very good things for the team. So that is probably very important for you and your team, that you're working with people which are positive and giving you a lot of energy and support.
Yes.
Is that one part of this of your coping when you're traveling?
Yes, it's very important, and I hate that this industry is so big and everything is mass produced, and I don't like meeting people all the time that you don't even know the name of. So it's very important for me to choose people that I think are brilliant, and then to always be loyal to them. I would rather. I was touring quite a long time with some dancers that I found in Czech Republic, and even though I should probably have found local dancers in every place I went to, because it's more expensive to bring, but I promised them that I would choose them as my dancers, and then I brought them around everywhere with me. But that's just because they were so special, and they were so kind and spiritual and good people. And then you know that you have to just bring them with you, because you have to be loyal to the people you love, I guess, in this world, because there is not enough loyalty.
It's interesting you say.
Loyalty.
Loyalty. You mentioned that also a couple of times. Loyalty before we started talk. Is loyalty important for you?
Yes, it is. It's very important. I feel like, especially in the music industry, people aren't always being taken good care of, and people can, it's very like in most businesses, I guess, that everyone is replaceable, and I don't like that policy, because no one is replaceable, and you should really take care of the people that help you achieve the things you achieve. Like it's very important for me that it's important to be seen also. I think that's one of the most painful thing people experience, when people don't see them, because we need to be seen when we're in pain, but we also need to be seen for our talent and how good we are, and our potential, and to be understood.
Is that okay? Very interesting what you say about the relationship which you have with the people you're working with, and is that something you take time in doing, that you get to know the people you're working with in different positions? Is that something you have a focus on, that they feel that they are seen by you? Is that important?
Well, of course it is, and they see me and I see them. Without it wouldn't be as special, and yes, it's very important. But I hope that's a very obvious thing to most people. I think many people think the same as I do. It's important to have good relations, and to, it just becomes more fantastic when everything is just good and we're having fun, and also it's incredible to see people around you having ownership to their success, and we achieve things together, and it just makes it even more fun. It's important to have someone to celebrate with, that loves the project and that loves you and you love them, and then you're not alone in your success, which I think many people can be, which is very destructive and incredibly sad. So it's good to make friends with everyone because it's the most fun.
And what you say is probably most people would agree.
Yes.
But I think the difficulty is often doing it in practice, seeing people. But it seems like you've taken extra steps in having that policy. You are working with the people you've started out working with as dancers. You fly them rather than having new dancers. So that's something actively which you work on. Well,
yes, but I don't know. It's no human is replaceable, and then you have to stand for that, and that they. I picked them in the beginning for a reason, because they were amazing, and then I want to keep using them because I told them that many years ago. So it's very important.
And what happens to you when you experience that someone is not loyal to you, or doesn't see you, or is not loyal? What has that? How has that affected you?
That hasn't affected me so much. I think as kind of the boss, it's more important to take care of the people and to not misuse your power. But if people, it's very important for me that people do what they want, and people do what feels right. And if they can take an extra step somewhere else, or obviously that's just a fantastic thing.
That they want to work somewhere else, or
that's just fantastic.
You support that,
Of course, but that's also.
So it's not a contract for lifetime.
Oh no!
If you work with another artist, it
no,
doesn't work like that.
No, but it's very important to just to give people safety. But it's also very fun to have the opportunity to give someone else the chance to join in this strange life.
And that's in the industry. Do you have the same policy in your private life, relationship with friends, and in love life?
Well, I don't spend too much time on my friends or love life, but I have a few friends. I don't have many because that's very exhausting when you have too much.
Yeah.
But I like to have like 3 friends, and I have 3.
For 4 is too much.
In your whole life. I have 3 friends.
3 friends, okay.
And also I'm very close to my sisters. They're also my best friend. And actually my mother and father are also my best friend.
Yeah, great. And then do you manage to maintain a regular relationship with them, that you communicate often with your friends?
No, not at all. I do it. I'm very good at it when I'm home. But when I'm away.
When you say home, when you mean Bergen or your hometown?
When I'm in Bergen.
In Bergen.
I'm very good at. I was with a friend yesterday. We stayed up late. That's why I'm a bit tired today. Because you're allowed to have visitors again. Yesterday they said it, so I invited someone over. It was very fun because I'm not so often social, so it was good for me to practice a bit with her before I met you guys today. But yes, what did I say? Yes, I'm good when I'm here, but I'm not good at being somewhere else when I'm in the moment. So when I'm on tour, I'm only on tour, and I almost forget that anything else exists. And when I'm making music, which I do all the time, I disappear very far into my own world, and I'm very bad at texting people or keeping in touch, which I could improve on, of course. But I'm just really bad at thinking about anything else.
The music takes your focus when you're doing that. Do you then get in the same space as you talked about when you were a child and a teenager, before you became the known artist? Do you then go in the same space that you just focus on the music, and then you like to be introverted and you like the solitude?
Well, yes. I get very into the things I'm doing, the stuff I'm doing, whatever it is. I remember it was a time where I started painting, and I only slept like 4 hours a night, and I painted for almost 16 hours a day. Yes, I get very into the things I do, but it's sometimes a problem because then it's hard for me to do anything else. I'm extremely good at focusing on what I like and what I want, but it makes you forget about a lot. I get in trouble a lot. I forget a lot of things. It's but I'm working on it.
I see. And with life challenges, after you became as a grown up, you've been open about life challenges and your mental health. Would you want to take us a little bit through that?
Take you on a trip down memory lane?
Memory lane, or yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I am very proud of being human. I think that's my favorite personal trait, that I'm just human like everyone else. That's also my favorite trait about everyone else, that they're human. And I find everything I feel very fascinating, and I like to really dive into why I'm feeling scared and why I'm feeling happy and why I'm feeling sad. And I love writing about it and talking to myself about it. It's very good for the mind to talk to yourself sometimes. You're not crazy, you're perfectly fine. But yes, I've had many ups and downs, like most people, I think, in life. But of course, I've been through quite some extreme things, because being an artist is a very extreme thing, and again, it's not really meant. I don't think humans are meant to experience so much attention or pressure or so much love. Even though it's beautiful, it's also just overwhelming. And also you get a lot of responsibility. People expect you to be more than human, which obviously no one can be.
You felt a lot of pressure?
Not really. I don't feel it here, but I feel it from there. But I don't really answer to it.
No.
Because what's the point with that, you know? Because you can only be what you can be. And I've always been very kind to myself. That's the biggest thing I try to say to the people that like my music also, that it's so important to be more kind to yourself. We are so mean to ourselves. And it's just heartbreaking to see these perfectly beautiful, perfectly fine people being so strict with themselves and being so judging. I've always thought that when I'm down or when I have bad periods of my life, I always think that as long as I manage to end up in my bed alive, I am a successful human being. Because sometimes your task for the day is only to make it to the next day. And then that's perfectly fine. And then you do the same the next day again, until suddenly one day you feel a bit better. But give yourself time. That's the most important thing. And just be more kind. Don't expect too much of yourself when you know that what you actually need is just time to heal. It's very important.
So take us, psychologists, we are very interested in like thoughts and emotions, and I think people are very interested in hearing people's different emotions and different thoughts. So during your lows, can you take us through how you think and how you feel? So for a typical day, when you're at your low, or how does that day look?
Well, if I'm on tour and I have to play or I have to do like 1,000 interviews or meet fans and they're filled with anticipation and I know that I can't give them the same energy back because I am sad or tired or just overwhelmed, I normally just tell them. I said, "Oh, hello, and I'm sorry, I'm like this today, but I'm so happy to see you." Or in the interviews, I often say, "I'm sorry, I'm a bit wonky today, but I'll do my best."
Yeah.
And on the stage also, I said, "Oh, this was a tough day, but I feel it's nice to be here with you." I don't know, when you say it out loud, the monster inside you looks much smaller when you pull it out and put it on the table next to you. You can see the actual size of it. It's very important to just say. That's what I often do. But if I'm home, I usually just lay in bed and I eat food that makes me happy, and I watch many Disney movies, or I play Minecraft, or I take a long shower, and I do things that makes me feel human. The small things that remind me of how good these small things in life can be, like a good cup of tea or a warm shower with a bit of cold water in the end. I always do that when I'm sad, because that gives the body a lot of natural endorphins. Endorphins, I
think that's...
Yes, the hormones you get when you're... it makes us happy, so it's kind of a natural antidepressant to shower a bit in cold water. So that's a very good advice. But yes.
So it seems to be like when you have the low periods and when you're touring or outside your home, you manage to keep the activity level up, but you control the expectations level a little bit by telling people I'm not at my best. But when you're at home, you sometimes allow yourself to be more sad.
Yeah.
Or like just
do nothing.
Do nothing. Yeah.
And I don't, and I'll often just tell myself that, okay, now I feel like there's a whole ocean in my chest, or I feel like I'm sinking, and that's fine. I'm not afraid of that emotion, and I never make music when I feel like that, because I don't feel like I have the right perspective when I'm sad. I feel like no people has. That's why so many people in pain can seem rude to other people, because obviously you have no room for anything else than yourself when you're in pain, and that's perfectly normal. But that's why I never write when I'm sad.
When you're sad, yeah.
But I write afterwards, because then I can see it more clearly.
You can see the sadness differently. Yeah?
Yes.
So that's very interesting, and in the field of how trying to help people with their emotions and with the thoughts. It's often an exercise to try to discover what things are triggering the thoughts and emotions, like what are triggering you to be sad. And it's often hard to say, because sometimes it's nothing to pinpoint, but
that's true.
But it must be something. And what do you think that often is? What triggers you to be sad?
With me, it's often when it's rarely, again, personal things. Sometimes it is obvious, but that's like normal things, when someone you love dies, or someone around you is depressed, or you worry. That takes its toll on you. But often with me, I get very sad when I read the papers. And I can get very lost, and I can sometimes lose hope in us. And it's
when you say us, then you mean humans.
Yes, humans.
Yeah.
It just makes me, it's very sad to think that so many obvious things, like racism, or people that just hates women, or the men that commit suicide, or like there is so much pain, and like pointless pain that didn't need to exist, but we make it so. And that's just really demotivating when you read. And I go quite deep into that, quite pointlessly, and
you feel hopelessness.
Hopelessness and helplessness, and so it's mostly existential things. And I think a lot about death as well. And it's the weird balance with nothing matters. But then the next day you think that everything matters, every little thing, which is quite normal, I think, for people to go through that whole thing.
We see, and as probably many people know, the new type of mental health challenges which people experience. Like now, like many people have environmental anxiety.
Yes.
They have a different type of and young people, young adults, and adults, people at all ages. Some of them have the same reaction as you're having. They read about the paper, whether it's the COVID or environmental problems or racism, and they feel overwhelmed. And it's overwhelming, and people get hopelessness because you're being bombarded by different information,
and you feel like you can't do anything with it. It's a very empty and horrible feeling to feel hopelessness.
Can we blame the media?
I think in some ways, I think going through that hopelessness is an important part of making the world better, because without knowing, how could we have a positive effect on the world if we didn't even know what was happening? So I think it's equally as important, but of course every article is just written by people, and people have flaws. So I think I wish we could see more in the media what we have actually accomplished, because the truth is that so many countries are getting better with the environment, and like they're doing things every day, small things. If it's just that now one school is recycling or they are making chairs out of recycled plastic, like small things are happening every day, and it's fantastic.
But that's not a clickbait article, perhaps. And
no.
Then it becomes
not
so interesting to read about.
Yes, but I wish we could see more of that, because it's important to know that every little thing we have done so far has helped, and it's really getting there, I think. So I do have hope, but sometimes you just get blinded by whatever you see in front of you, which is also okay.
I see. And do you have then often a strategy, as many people do, me included, that in some periods I don't read the news. It's like I think, you know, in this period there's not gonna do me any good about reading about these 2-3 negative things. I don't do it. Yes. So do you do the same, that you don't seek negative information and you keep it out?
Yes, and I almost never read the paper, because whatever the paper writes, you still know that you need to do good. You know, you don't need the papers to remind you of how horrible the world is sometimes, because you already know, and you're already doing your best to be a good change in the right direction. But I love talking to people about politics and about the world and about emotional matters. I think that's very inspiring to hear what people think. So I spend a lot of time every day discussing different matters with people, and I do that a lot, and I find it very interesting. Sometimes educating, sometimes not, but it's always interesting.
Do you think that these worries about the world that plays a big part in the rise in mental health problems of young adults?
Yes, I think so. And also, I'm really afraid that media and also these apps, social media apps, I am very afraid that they are dehumanizing us, and which I think they are, because we are forgetting what matters. And it's no wonder people are struggling with their self-image or with the expectations they have, because we have this app that is almost created for us to be in competition with each other. And now there's even a competition on, like, with who is the most woke. You know, it's so competitive, and it's made for you to compare yourself, and I'm so tired of whatever is in us that makes us want to worship something we feel is perfect. It feels like we love looking up to people we feel are perfect, if it's in their beauty or in their wealth or wisdom, and then we use that to also attack our own image, and we feel less worthy, which is it is a very big shame. I write a lot about this on my next album that's coming out later this year.
Looking forward to hear it. Interesting what you talk about in this. I agree. People do this. This is what happens. And if you think, if I think, for example, if I would be a teenager now in these times, it would be having a much more impact to social media than today, because you're comparing, and when you're a teenager, a young person, it's very important that you are respected in your group, and that is important. Do you think people should use less social media?
Oh yes, I like to be quite inactive, or I like to go. I'm not on social media that much. And I encourage my fans often, because they're the people I can reach out to, obviously. So I like to encourage them to take some weeks off once in a while, because of course our connection to each other online is true. Of course we are connected, and we can make friends online and through gaming. Like, it's really real, it's very real. But also I think in some ways this connection online on this device is also creating a false illusion that you're not lonely. And I think it's very easy to be confused. You're reassured by your followers or your likes or your messages, but also in the end you're alone again. So I think it's scary also that we are replacing, of course now we have to because of COVID, but we are replacing a lot of true interaction with also true interaction, but also kind of an illusion of true interaction, which I think is a shame, because there is nothing more interesting than to speak to someone that is sitting in front of you and to see them. So I hope we will always keep that alive, even though of course it's making it hard for us to do that right now.
But why do you think that people do it, and that they want to be perceived as, you know, that they're in a good emotional state on social media and doing good things, and if I'm, for example, not totally honest, I think I've done it myself when I'm not feeling good, but still you post something on social media, but it's not representing how you really feel. But why do you think people do that?
I don't know. I think it is kind of, maybe it's a placebo effect that we actually believe we are better if we see ourselves in that universe being better than we are. And maybe, I don't know, it's easy to live in an illusion. We do it all the time, most of us. It's really sad. I don't know why we do that, but I guess keeping up appearances is very human.
Yeah, this has also positive sides with it. And also I think maybe as well hard for many as well to share that they're not feeling good, but I think I haven't seen the statistics about it, but I think though there's a growing trend that many people are sharing a little bit more truer emotions on social media.
Definitely.
And then they're like saying, you know, this is how I feel. I've been feeling down. I've been feeling bad. I just want to let my friends and family know that, so it seems to be a trend in that way.
Yeah, it's one of the good ones, that one. And it's weird because you know how when someone known opens up and people just love them even more, because there's nothing more beautiful than a vulnerable human being that are being honest about feelings they are either afraid of or ashamed of. It's so lovable when people are honest. So it should just encourage all of us to be more honest, because we love it when other people do it, and of course other people will love it when you do it, because even though this world is very dehumanizing, we can always prove that the more human we are, the more easy it is to love us. Because I guess, you know, obviously we are humans and we love seeing human traits in each other, so it's important.
Aurora, you talked a lot about sadness and loneliness. So, and we know COVID, of course, has made many people more lonely and more sad. What kind of advice do you have to people who have been feeling lonely and sad?
Well, I'm always a fighter for the underdogs, because I am an underdog, or have been my whole life, and I know that the world is often not made for shy introverts, emotional, or I guess complicated people. But now, my introverted friends, we need to take care of our extroverted friends, because now they are in a lot of pain.
They're more pain.
And I think a lot about, because for me, I love being inside, and I know some people out there do too. But I guess it's very different when you don't have the choice. The loneliness has such a different color when you have no other choice than to be lonely. It's very different, of course. But I guess it's important to know that it will pass. Everything will pass. Of course it will. Everything is nothing is eternal. Not even you or me. So it's very important to know that it will go over, and just take day by day and try to do small things, like do a little walk outside in the park, or just try to do small things that gives you a different perspective. And I guess if you're a family that lives close together, I would just hope people can remember that, okay, maybe your mother is a bit different now than she usually is, or maybe your family is more angry or grumpy, and maybe people are arguing a bit more, couples are arguing a bit more. But I think that's also important to know that it's perfectly normal, and we're all going through a lot of insecurities right now. If it's financially, like what's happening in the future, people are really worried, and some people are really afraid of getting the virus, and has, we never know what's going on in the inside of the people around us. So I think it's important to remember to be understanding and to not take it personally if someone around you is rude, and just to know that, okay, they are probably going through a lot of things inside of them, and just to have understanding. I think that's important. But you also have to understand yourself, while you are being maybe less productive, maybe you're sleeping or drinking a bit more. I think that is also important to know that that's also normal, and we are all kind of going through a difficult time together. But I think understanding is the most important thing, maybe, to just be really understanding that times are a bit shit right now, and it's not personal.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so it's been great to have you with us, Aurora. And if we have the final question. So if you could give yourself advice, if we could go back in time before you decided that you were gonna be an artist, after you listened to the advice your mother gave you, what kind of advice would you give you then?
I think I would I would give myself the advice to never forget, not even for a minute or a second. Never forget why I started making music in the first place. Who I am, and why I make music, and why I should love what I do, because the reason why I started doing this is so fundamentally important to me and my soul. I think because I forgot for a few years when I was too busy on tour, and I got really depressed. So I think I would have told myself to never lose touch with that child that usually lives very strongly within my heart. So that this inner child has to be very prominent in everything I do, and all the people I meet is very important. And that's also the advice I give myself to the future, to never forget, because the core is the most important thing.
Thank you for the great final words, Aurora. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.